Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do all of my 5-star reads. Like every book that I've ever given 5 stars, I'm going to tell you what they were. So we're going to start, like, I got back into reading I think in like 2022. So we're going to start with every book that I've given 5 stars since then, which came out to a little over 50 books, which is a lot actually. I didn't think I had that many, but I went through my Goodreads and wrote them all down, and I've got them all out. And now there are some that I gave 5 stars, and they were 5 stars at the time, but now my reading tastes have changed. Like, I have read better books since then, so, like, me right now, they're not 5-star books to me anymore, but I gave them 5 stars, so they're going to go in the video. Um, so let's just get into it, because I don't know how long this video is going to be. There's a lot of books to go over. So I'm going to start with the book that got me back into reading. Like, I've always liked to read. I liked to read when I was in high school, but I got out of reading, like, when I was in college, because you don't have time when you're in college. But I read We Were Liars, I think the beginning of 2022, and that put me back into reading. I don't know if you haven't read that book, you need to, because the plot twist at the end of that book was insane, and it gave me the fire to read again, and I'm very thankful that I picked that book up when I did. Because now, because of that book, we are here. So that's my first 5-star read. I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the books that I read a while ago that I don't think are 5-star reads for me anymore. Now that I've read more and I've read like really good books, they're not 5-star reads, but they were then. So I feel like whenever you start reading, if you like haven't read like a lot of romance and you want to get into romance, then it's like a rite of passage to read Colleen Hoover. You just gotta. I feel like she's a good author to like get into the genre. So I gave 5 stars to It Ends With Us and Ugly Love. Colleen Hoover, her books are like, I'm worried for her mental health, kind of, because yes, her books are romance, but the things that happen in her books, they're crazy. And I think that's why they're like so good whenever you read them, because they're easy reads, they're bingeable, and stuff just happens that makes you just want to keep reading. So, like Ugly Love, it's been a while since I've read it. I think it's like brother's friend, and he's a pilot, um, and he doesn't want a relationship, pretty much. So, but I remember it being really good. I think this is my favorite book of hers. It Ends With Us. If you haven't read it, I feel like everybody on the planet has read this book at this point because it's been made into a movie. And if you read and you read romance, then you probably read this book. But if you haven't, it kind of touches on domestic violence, and I think I read this book in a day. It was really good at the time. I think now I probably would have given it 4 stars, but another book that I read forever ago that I don't even really remember what happened. Sorry. I don't even really remember what happened. Is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. What I remember about this book is that she is on the spectrum, so she's very dry. She doesn't pick up on personal cues. She's not good with people. And he is like a male escort, and she hires him to kind of teach her how to be in a relationship, and they end up falling in love because, of course. I remember really enjoying this book, so if you, again, are getting into the genre, I think this is a good one. Zodiac Academy. I devoured this series. I absolutely loved it. It was a lot of fun until you got to like book 8. Um, book 8 was just way too long. There was like so many unnecessary POVs, but I gave 5 stars to the first 7 books. I probably wouldn't have done that now, but I gave 5 stars to the first 7 books. It is a really good series. Okay, so now we'll go into like the more recent ones, I think. Um, we'll start with like the genre that I have the fewest 5 stars in, which is like general fiction. Um, I have How to Stop Time by Matt Haig. I read this one a good while ago, so I don't remember a whole lot, but I do remember that he was born with, I wouldn't say disease, but he was born to where he ages really, really slow. So he's like over 100 years old, like 120 or so, and he's part of this society that helps people like him. So they move around like every 10 years or so to like limit the suspicion against them, and they never go back to the same place. But so it kind of goes back between timelines of present and past, and he thinks he has a daughter who has the same thing as him. So he's kind of in search for her, and he goes back to London, where like he originated from, to see if he can find her. And it kind of gives me like Addie LaRue vibes because it's magical realism and it just has that atmosphere about it. I loved it. I think I would like to reread this book. I just remember it being beautiful writing, like poetic writing, and I just really enjoyed that. Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. This was my first Kristen Hanna book, my only Kristen Hanna book so far. I gave it, I think 4.75 stars technically, but 5 stars on Goodreads. So, and I wanted to talk about it because if you are a woman of any age, of any time in your life, you need to read this book because it's girlhood in a book. I think at any age or any point in your life, you can connect to something in this book, and it was just so good because you're following these two best friends who have been friends since they were teenagers in the 70s, and you're just following their life and how their lives, go, and how they're still part of each other's lives throughout everything that happens to them. And it's like heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. I feel like you can't read a Kristen Hanna book and not cry. But please read this book. It is so good. A Little Life was a 5, 6, 7-star read for me. I don't like to recommend this book to people because it's heavy. It is very heavy. The only reason that I even picked it up was just because I was curious about what happened to make people say that it's like the saddest book ever written. And it is. It's literally the saddest book I think on this planet. I finished it and I was crying so hard. I had to take a shower to like make myself calm down because I was just heartbroken at the end of it. But you follow these 4 friends who meet in college, and it's kind of like their whole lives, kind of like with Firefly Lane. And you're following all 4 of them, but your main focus is Jude. And Jude, bless his heart, has just had the short end of the stick his whole life. And it's just their lives and what happens to them. But you fall in love with them and they feel like they're your friends, and that's why it is so hard to read. But, so if you read this book, it's your decision, don't come from me. Because I don't recommend people reading this book unless they want their lives ruined. Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I've only read the first 2 books. I have started the 3rd one. I'm just reading it slowly when I'm in the mood for a general fiction. Both of these books were phenomenal. I love these books. The characters, the town, the atmosphere, all of it. If you've ever read a Fredrik Backman book, you know that he has such quirky, unique characters. And you do get that in these books, but it's like a lot more serious than his other books. His other books are a lot different than these. But it's amazing. It's immersive. It's heartwarming. I don't know how to put into words, but you gotta read them. They're amazing. I recommend them to literally everyone I talk to about books. So that was it for the general fiction genre. I do believe. I only have like one mystery thriller book that I've ever given 5 stars to. I'm just not a huge mystery thriller reader, but Hidden Pictures was amazing. I don't remember a whole lot about this book, but I do know that you follow this girl who struggled with drug addiction, and so she goes to rehab, and when she gets out, she gets help from whoever the people are that help you when you get out of rehab, and she gets a job as a live-in nanny, and things start happening. Weird things start happening. There's a twist at the end of this book that I did not see coming. It was crazy. So if you like mystery thrillers, I recommend that one. So this is kind of a mystery book. It's a young adult series. I didn't give 5 stars to every single book in the series, but it is a 5-star series in all for me, and that is The Naturals, which is like a young adult Criminal Minds. You're following, I think, four or five teenagers who get recruited by the FBI for cold cases. So like they all have these like natural abilities for things. It's not like magic or anything. It's just like intuition. And they team up as like profilers, and they're supposed to help the FBI solve cold cases. And it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reading it. I love Criminal Minds, and it reminded me a lot of that. So if you like murder mystery FBI shows, or you really like Criminal Minds, you'd really like this series. Now, I don't know why I didn't give 5 stars to the first book in this series, but I gave 5 stars to the last 3. And I haven't read the last one in this series, but that is the Magnolia Parks series. I don't know how to put into words how much I love this series. You have, the first book is Magnolia Parks, and then you have the second one, which is Daisy Hates. Same world, same characters, but you're following Magnolia and DJ in one, and then you're following Daisy and her brother, Julian, and Christian, which is her love interest. And it's high society London, lots of drama. There's like mafia, especially in Daisy Hates. And it's like addictive. This series is addictive. I haven't read the last one solely because I am intimidated by it. It's really long, and I'm scared to read it because the rest of them have like ripped my heart out, and I'm just a little scared. But highly recommend that series. 5-star series. Okay, now we're going to get into the romance books. So, I read this one a long time ago. Love in Other Words. I think I read it in a day, which means I don't entirely remember what exactly it was about. But I think it was like a second chance romance where the characters meet when they were younger, and then they meet up again later. I do remember it being sad. I don't know. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I devoured this book. It was so much fun. The girl that you're following, she inherits an apartment from her aunt who passes away, and she quickly learns that this apartment is magical, and that sometimes when you go into the apartment, you are sometimes 7 years in the past. And she walks into her apartment one day, and there is a stranger there living in her apartment. But he is 7 years in the past, and she is 7 years in his future. And you just kind of follow them falling in love in 2 different timelines, and it was really cool to me. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is the only Ali Hazelwood book that I've read so far. I don't remember loving it so much that I gave it 5 stars, but apparently I did. It was really good. I think the second book comes out soon. It's about werewolves and witches. The vampire, she kind of lives amongst the humans, and that's what she prefers to do. But her father is a very powerful vampire councilman, and he uses her as an alliance with the werewolves in marriage. So she gets married to the alpha and has to live over there, and so it's married forced marriage, marriage of convenience, whatever you want to call it. And it was really good. I might need to reread it because I don't really remember what happened. And the second book comes out soon, so yeah. Dishonestly Yours. I have read like mixed reviews on this book. To me personally, it was a 5-star read. It's just, you get that feeling whenever you're reading, and I just loved these characters. They grow up in a con man family. So this is like their moms are two best friends, and they grow up being con men, and all of their children are then trained as con men. But you're following Phoebe and Haley, and they just want out of the con man life. So they run off, but Haley's older brother follows them to make sure that they don't get into any trouble. And Phoebe and, what is his name, Rocky, kind of got stuff going on. So it's like her best friend's brother. It was a lot of fun. I think the con man part was just the fun part to me. I just love reading stuff like that. So, Love Redesigned and Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. I absolutely loved these books. I haven't read any of her other ones, and they're kind of long for like romance books, but they don't feel long like when you're reading them. They were a lot of fun, and they're about billionaires. So who doesn't like reading about billionaires who can just buy you whatever you want, right? One of my favorite authors, Sarah Adams. I don't have this book in particular. I loaned it to a friend, which is The Match. That was 5 stars for me just because of the feels. It's a 5-star feeling. It's about a girl who has seizures, so she has a service animal to like be with her so that she is capable of living alone. And then the male main character, his daughter, also has seizures, and his daughter is really trying to convince him to get a service dog so that she can do the things she likes to do without him freaking out, because it's new to them. He's scared. He doesn't want to leave her alone, and she thinks that a service animal will be good for her, but he's not having it. The daughter sends an email to the girl saying that they're interested in a service dog, pretending to be her dad. So they go to a meetup, and he is like blindsided. The girl is confused. She's like, I thought you wanted to talk about a service dog. And he ends up being really rude to her, and she doesn't have it, puts him in his place, and leaves. Absolutely loved it. I love Sarah Adams books. I laugh. Sometimes I cry. They're just so good. Another Sarah Adams book is When in Rome, the first book in her When in Rome Small Town Romance series. You're following Amelia and Noah. And Noah owns a pie shop in small Rome, Kentucky. And Amelia is this big pop star who is just trying to get away from the big life. So she hops in her car and drives. And then she ends up breaking down in his front yard. And he's like, do you need help? You know, you can come inside and use my phone. She's like, you're a stranger. I'm not coming inside your house. But he ends up helping her. She ends up staying in town while her car gets fixed. And it's like a forced proximity Grumpy Sunshine. And it's amazing. I loved it. And then her newest book in the series is Beg, Borrow, Steal, is following Noah's sister, Emily. She is a teacher, and it is about her and her rival, Jack. He's also a teacher, and she just feels like they're rivals in like every part of their life. They're both teachers. That he is like this super lovable person, and she doesn't understand why, but that book was great. It does touch on grief, but I feel like she did such a good job touching on grief, because I personally don't like reading about books that have to do with grief, but she did a really good job. So I recommend like literally any of her books. I haven't read them all. I'm like saving some of them for, like if I'm in a book slump or I just want like a little palate cleanser. I'm trying to like slowly read her books because I'm going to be very sad when I read like her whole backlist. Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is the only Emily Henry book that I've read so far, but it's really good. It's kind of a second chance romance. You're following, who is it? Harriet and Wynne, and they go on this annual trip with all of their friends, and their friends don't know that they've broken up, so they're trying to put on like a front so that their friend's gonna have a good time, pretty much. And they end up, you know, talking it out and falling back in love. But it's a really good story. Like, I feel like this is everyone's like favorite Emily Henry book, and that's why I read it first. I can't wait to read more of her books. I'm sure they're all gonna be amazing. Then we have Elsie Silver, Wild Love, and Wild Eyes. Wild Love was my first Elsie Silver book, and I love her. I love her books. This one is brother's best friend and like childhood best friend, but really good. And then Wild Eyes is another like small town guy falls in love with this big superstar. And West, I knew that I would love him. I love him so much. Maybe one of my favorite book boyfriends. Just amazing. He just has that personality that everybody loves. And this is a single dad series, so like I think the first 3 books, the third one just came out. I haven't read it yet, but the whole series is going to be about single dads. And there's just something about reading about a single dad that I just love so much. I don't know. The first book in the Brutal Birthright series, Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, this I think is technically like a dark romance because it's about these mafia gangs, but it is so much fun. I love it. There's 6 books, I think, and it's all about the mafia families, and they're just a good time. Like, they're easy reads. They're nothing spectacular. Okay, don't get your hopes up, but they're really good. This was the last 5-star read that I've had currently. I haven't had a 5-star read since this one, and it is Nightshade. I still think about this book to this day. I cannot recommend it enough. It's a dark academia romance. You're following Ophelia, who her parents died, I think like 4 years ago in a helicopter crash. They worked at Sorrow Song University, her parents did, and there's like a mystery. She thinks that someone covered up their murder, that it wasn't actually an accident, the helicopter crash. So she goes to this school for free because her parents worked there, and since they died, the university is like, we'll give you a scholarship. We want you to come here. So she's like, okay. Not because she wants to go there, but because she wants to solve her parents' murder. And she ends up meeting Alex, whose father owns the company of the helicopter that her parents crashed in. So she does not like him for obvious reasons, because she thinks that his dad was behind the whole thing. The university has houses, and each house is named after like poisonous plants. And of course, she ends up in the Nightshade group, which is full of like mafia, hitman, assassins, crazy murder people. She's like, I don't belong here. I'm supposed to be in a different one. And they're like, nope, there's no mistake. This is your house. And so she gets stuck in their dormitory and has to figure out who killed her parents, but also trying not to die because she is roomed with a mafia murderer lady. The romance between these 2 characters, I don't know. It just was so good because he falls first, and I think I just love when that happens in a book, and he is just like completely obsessed with her and will do anything for her. Crazy stuff happens because it's a dark book. Okay, now time for fantasy, which is I think my favorite genre. So we're gonna start with the obvious, which is ACOTAR. I feel like if you're just now wanting to get into romantasy, everyone says to read ACOTAR, and I agree, because I feel like it's an easy way to get into the genre without starting a complicated book, because fantasy can get very complicated with the world building and the magic systems and the magical creatures, and there's just a lot to fantasy. And I think because ACOTAR is more romance focused than plot, well, it does have a lot of plot, but it's an easy magic system, it's an easy world to understand, and there's a lot of romance in it. So if you read romance primarily and you want to get into fantasy, ACOTAR is a good way to do it. I will say the first book is really good. I didn't give it 5 stars. I gave the second one 5 stars. The first book I think is just you just have to it's like a rite of passage. You have to read that book, get through that book to get to this book. This is the book that matters. Absolutely love it. Then another Sarah J. Maas series, which is my favorite series, my favorite fantasy series ever, My Roman Empire, is Throne of Glass. This is the last book. She thick. 5-star series. This book itself ruined me. This is the last book in the series, and I think this was the first book that like actually made me cry real tears. But I love these characters so much and I miss them so much. And I will recommend it to anybody who will let me. Her other series, which is an urban fantasy, which if you don't know what that means, is more modern. So they have cell phones and cars and electricity. It's like modern times, but fantasy. And that's Crescent City. I gave 5 stars to the second and the third book. But all in all, it's a 5-star series. The books are extremely long, but they're really good. Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This, I think, it's such a fast-paced read, and it's so much fun. It reminded me a lot of like Hunger Games. There is more romance to it, but there are ordinary people who have no powers, and they are not welcome in this world, by the way. And then there are the elites. And if you are an ordinary and you are found, you are murdered, pretty much. But you're following Peyton, who she's an ordinary, but she is pretending to be a psychic so that she doesn't get killed. And she ends up being chosen for the purging trials. So it reminds me a lot of Hunger Games with the purging trials. But it's a really fast-paced, easy read. The magic system is easy to understand. And I think the third book comes out soon. Then we have Two Twisted Crowns. I gave this one 5 stars. The first one I think I gave 4 stars, but as a duology as a whole, it is a 5-star duology to me. The magic system in this duology is so unique and so different than other ones that it stands out against other books. And it's like a dark gothic fantasy, which is a little different. The atmosphere is really cool. And this magic system, the way they get magic is through cards. So there's 12 different cards out there, and each card gives you like a different ability. So pretty much, if you're rich, you have a card. If you're poor, you don't. So you don't get magic. You're following Elspeth, who, when she was a kid, she touched a card, and the monster inside the card went inside her. So she has been living her life with a monster inside her head. So he protects her, pretty much. If she's in danger, he kind of takes over and protects her from harm. But it was really good, really cool. Another series, 5-star series. I didn't give every book in this series 5 stars, but as a whole, it is 5 stars. And that is the Sunken City trilogy. I don't see anybody talk about this series. I came across it on, I think I found it on Goodreads, and then I saw it on TikTok. And I think she's an indie author, but it is like a pirate and under the sea fantasy. So you're following Amari, who is the only girl on a pirate ship. She grew up with all of these pirates. Her parents died, and the pirate captain took her in and raised her himself. So she finds out that she is a princess for the underwater kingdom that her real father is the king for, and that magic exists, but it is outlawed in his kingdom. So she has to figure out how to fit in as the new princess. Finn kind of takes her under his wing. He's kind of tasked to protect her, pretty much. And then his brother, Lucas, kind of just pops up out of nowhere, and Finn is like, you can't trust him, he's not good, he doesn't have your best interest in mind, and stay away from him, pretty much. The two male love interests in this series are modeled after the Salvatore brothers from Vampire Diaries. So if you like the Vampire Diaries and you really like the Salvatore brothers, then you're really going to love this series. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book was a 5 stars to me. The series as a whole is not a 5-star for me. I feel like this is probably a good book to read if you're newer to fantasy because it's not hard to understand and it's a lot of fun. Like you go to a war college and you ride dragons and you get your magic from dragons. And it was really good. The romance was really good. The plot's really good. The whole series as a whole is just not doing it for me anymore. But the first book was definitely a 5-star. Lore Olympus, which is actually a graphic novel, which means it's kind of like a comic book. It's the only graphic novel that I've ever read, but it is like a Greek god retelling. The author has tried to keep it as accurate as possible, but while modernizing it, and it's a really fun read to me. Not all of the books are out, but you can read them all on Webtoon, and she has finished the series. But the volumes are coming out like one by one every few months. So like I've got through 7 already, and then I think there's probably going to be like 10 or 11, who knows. But it's a lot of fun. You're following Hades and Persephone, so if you like the Hades and Persephone retellings, it's really fun, and they're really fast because they're graphic novels. So, Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This was a lot of fun. It's about a traveling contest put on by demons, and it's like a haunted house, kind of. So, and then the challenges are kind of like the 9 circles of hell. And the love interest, or the female main character, is a necromancer, and her love interest is a phantom who helps her through the trials, helps her through the game so that she can win. It's very spooky, so reading this in October, yes, highly recommend doing that because it makes it 10 times better. Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I absolutely love this book. It's kind of long, not gonna lie, but it doesn't feel long whenever you read it. It is one of my all-time favorite fantasy books ever. It was so good, so easy to read. There's fae and vampires, and the magic system is really cool. You're following Saris, who lives in a world where like the sun doesn't go down, pretty much. It's always hot, and where she lives in like the poor part of the city, so they only get like 6 ounces of water a day rationed by the kingdom. And because of that, she is kind of like a thief or a pickpocket. She is sneaky and she figures out how to live the best way she can. But she ends up opening a portal to another world, and a fae, Kingfisher, comes out of the portal and takes her to his world. And so she's thrown into that, and she's not allowed to go back because she is an alchemist, and there hasn't been an alchemist in years, hundreds of years. So you follow her and Kingfisher. The second book comes out this year, I think November, and I can't wait. I'm like chomping at the bits. Okay, so that was every book that I've ever given 5 stars to. So if you've read some of these books, you let me know, and then hopefully you got some recommendations from this video, because I went over a lot of books. I still can't believe that I have given this many books 5 stars, but that was a lot of fun. If you like yapping about books or watching me yap about books, then you should give me a like and subscribe. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!